And that's really a good point. Because that's one of the things that I think some people might miss sometimes is that because a majority feels comfortable or feels like they're being represented, it's not always that true. For example, I'm a humanist and Kara's an atheist, and we never feel like we're being represented by our elected officials. So it's understandable when you want to actually say, hey, you're not representing us as well. You're kind of ignoring us. It's not exactly the same, but it's the same type of feeling where you want to be represented. You want people to understand that you don't feel like you're being included in the system. It's a really good point to bring up, because maybe bringing it up and actually having a logical discussion about it will help alleviate it in the future, which is one of the reasons why we started this show in the first place, was to try to get people to talk about issues from the heart without the constant name-calling and liberal versus conservatives, the partisan crap. Because that's what's wrong with our country these days, is nobody wants to actually have a real conversation to create real solutions. Everybody wants to have a conversation about why their position is the only one that should be done. So we encourage people to say, hey, I loved it, but this was a problem, because that brings that problem to the forefront. Was there any other things that maybe was good, bad, indifferent that you wanted to talk about?
So I also wanted to bring up that the entire movement did start with people of color. So it's kind of like a lot of things that I do hear constantly is like, well, it'll all come in time. Representation comes in time, but how much longer do people of color have to ask for representation? One of my favorite things, though, about the Pride Festival as a whole, though, has always been the parade. I've been in the parade 3 different times, and I've always loved it. This year I actually got to march with my Greek organization, which I'm not going to name because I'm expressing political views, and I don't want to get them mixed up.
Understandable.
But it's definitely a really good experience with my...
Okay, you're cutting in and out.
Sorry, I'm blacked out and my reception's off.
I tell you, these damn phones these days.
Right.
Okay, so can you repeat that?
Yeah.
We got to the point where you said you didn't want to mention your is it fraternity, because of the fact that you're talking political and you don't want to bring that's fine. I understand that completely, and I agree with you.
Yeah.
So what else did you say after that?
So normally as a trans person, I've been on testosterone for 2 years. I'm not very visible in the community, and it was actually really cool to be able to put myself out there and make myself other people who can't be visible. Favorite thing about Pride is it does give voices to those who don't have them in some respects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's one of the things that we, I think, as a society have worked towards to prevent people from having that visibility and having that voice and that ability to express themselves. They talk about freedom of expressions and all this other stuff, but it turns into freedom of expression as long as it's me expressing that and not you. And I think that's kind of, un-American.
Basically, if it's not the majority, you don't matter. And
right.
That's a bunch of fucking shit.
Wow, boy, you dropped the F-bomb early today.
Sorry. Wait a minute, I waited 25 minutes. Give me a break. Cut me some slack, Jack.
Wow. Damn. Hey, at least we're just drinking beer, because if we were drinking Fireball and vodka right now, boy, she'd be like, what?
But I mean, the fact that the term equal rights means different things to different people, to me right there is a red flag.
Well, it's about labels. I mean, when it comes down to it, equal rights, realistically, we should just call it human rights, because we're all human and we should all have the same rights regardless. But because of religious indoctrination, political views, personal views, it never comes out that way.
Divide and conquer is more fun and more effective than let's all get along together,
Well, it's easier to assign labels to groups of people so that you can demean them all at the same time. Okay? We see this in politics, okay? How many times have you looked on Facebook and seen somebody screaming about those damn liberals or those stupid conservatives and this, that, and the other? It's like, well, not all liberals are screaming and whining, and not all conservatives are stupid. Although some, on both sides of the fence are really dumb. But the whole problem is that the media spends so much time finding ways to divide people because that makes good news. And to make good news, you make labels. And you put labels on the LGBT community. You make sure that when you talk about the Pride Festival that you mix in the protesters so they see the opposition. Because if you actually just had a good, nice interview or nice article about the Pride Festival without putting the negative in there, you're only attracting a certain crowd. But if you have a nice article about the Pride Festival, plus, look at all these protesters, and you get a couple of those, knuckle draggers. It's easier to say.
Yeah,
to make a couple of comments about how it's bad that they're having this, it's offensive and it's unreligious and blah, blah, blah. You bring in more people. You get more people to watch the show or the commercials or read the articles and stuff like that. And that's just a horrible way to try to work on creating a safe place regardless of differences.
That reminds me of fourth tenet of the Satanic Temple. I'd have to actually look it up, but it's basically like my right to be offended is to offend you. I'd have to actually look it up for the proper verbiage.
The Libertarian Party actually used the fourth tenet
exactly.
on one of their recent platform things, which of course has caused a stir. But
it has caused a stir, but still.
So, moving forward from here, okay, one of the things that really needs to happen, and both of you have mentioned about the fact that we need to have better education of people, because a lot of what is happening is because of ignorance. Not stupidity and not necessarily religious indoctrination, but just people that are ignorant of the fact that people can be people regardless of their sexual orientation, their gender identity, etc. So how, from your guys' standpoint, could we go around starting to change that so that people who are ignorant can become educated? Let's start with AJ.
So, from my experience, it usually, someone says something that might be problematic. It comes from, my opinion, can't talk to me. My opinion comes from taking them aside. I'm going to talk to you about how this is problematic and here's why, instead of calling out in a public setting and just having a conversation with them and opening up that line of communication. Because it's very important to educate people on things, but no one's really born with this knowledge. I did it one day, I'd be
Still there?
Did we just lose him?
Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
Oh, boy.
Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you
There
now.
you are. Yay.
There we go. Flagstaff. So where did I cut off?
You were talking about having just general conversation instead of debate.
Yeah, it is important to open up that line of communication and understand both sides of an argument. I had a situation very similar. It wasn't necessarily towards the LGBT community, but I just kind of came to them and I was like, hey, this term does not mean what you think it means, and here's the breakdown of this definition of this term, and here's the terms that you should be using instead. And it was a way more productive conversation than had I been right in front of all their friends, hey, you didn't do this right, and here's why I'm right and you're wrong.
Right, and that's a good point. Many times, if we approach a conversation in an aggressive way, in a way that's going to make one person or the other seem, it's an ego thing, I think. If you actually single somebody out in front of their friends, they're going to automatically be defensive. Whereas if you sit down and you're having a conversation with them over coffee, that's just you and that person, there's a lot less antagonistic feelings there. And it's a good way to focus on trying to explain and get people to understand your point of view as opposed to being antagonistic and trying to force them to understand, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how it works. You just have to approach it and be like, hey, I understand your side comes from this, but here's what this actually means. And here's what you are portraying when you say it in this way, because people don't realize it, but when they use the incorrect language, they are oppressing the community that language is against.
For
example, like if I was just to say,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
If I was just to say, oh, the transgender is not a noun, so and a person, transgender is an adjective. It's human. And it's making the language more. It's making the language more inclusive to what it's talking about.
I guess I have kind of a question. I mean, I have a question. I'm just not sure if I'm going to.
Kind of a question?
I don't know if I'm
Sort of a
going to
question?
phrase it. If I'm going to phrase it right, but it's something that's been grinding my gears for quite a while. But I haven't actually wanted to ask anybody because I don't want to get shot. But okay, a lot of people believe in equal rights, and a lot of people believe in gay rights, human equality, whatever you want to call it. But a lot of people don't. There's people that I know, and I've had conversations with that are supportive of equal rights, but don't actually know or care to sit there and verse themselves on all the proper verbiage. So it's like, well, is it LGBT, LGBTQ, LGBTQIA? I don't want to insult anybody. Maybe I shouldn't say anything. Is it better for me not to say anything? Is it better for me to say something and actually look like I'm ignorant? I mean, the language thing for people that are outside of the community, though support it, it's a lot to take in. And I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I think a lot of people actually aren't coming to the table and actually talking about stuff because they're so afraid they're going to offend the same people that they actually want to help, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah, that makes total sense. Like, it took me years to even understand the LGBT community, and I live in it. So I really encourage people to talk to people who are in the LGBT community on a one-on-one level. Because really, we're not going to get offended if you're trying to help us. That's like if you had a flat tire and some guy pulls over and offers to help you and you say no. I'm not going to say no. Like, that's just the wrong thing to do. You're trying to help me, so I'm going to help you help me.
Well, that's the way I like to look at it. But I saw a conversation between somebody, and they said, well, I'm a transgender, and somebody else said, I'm a pangender. And somebody said, well, I don't know what a pangender is. And it just got really heated, like, well, how the fuck do you not know this? It's like, well, how do you expect everybody to know everything about everything? That's like basically calling out a scientist because they don't know every single thing that could possibly be considered scientific. And I'm thinking, you try to open up a dialogue and then somebody gets offended and all of a sudden you get put on the defensive, the conversation dies. I mean, we need to we need to find a remedy around that. And maybe what if somebody doesn't know anybody in the LGBT community, but they want to help? What if they don't know anybody? I mean, I don't know. I just get the feeling that there's a lot of people that want to help and they don't know how, but they feel like the fire just kind of dies in their heart because they're so worried about offending people or getting shot that it's like, you know what, maybe I should just go about my regular day and just fuck it. It doesn't directly affect me. And I think that's really sad.
Well, I think that part of that has to do with education. Now, first off, I do know everything, so I can answer all those questions.
Well, you don't know everything because you married me.
I knew everything. It's all part of God's plan, right? No, I think that... I think that the route of individual one-on-one conversation and education in a non-aggressive way with people that are asking those questions is a good plan, and I think that's a good way to try to proceed. And you're going to find some people that are going to get offended. There's no way you can stop that. Somebody is going to get offended for something.
If they haven't been offended, then we haven't done our jobs.
Well, yeah, we need to work on that. But, I mean, I think that realistically, although you are going to find people out there that will be offended one way or another, regardless, for the most part, I think people who are interested or curious enough to want to ask the questions, once they figure out how to ask the questions and who to ask the questions from, then they'll probably be okay. but that takes a lot of community awareness and a lot of community building from a one-on-one basis and from a community basis. And I think that's one of the big benefits